Alright, good evening everyone, and my name is Benjamin, and welcome to a video on 2024, the potential Republican primary that we may see. Now, I'm going to dismiss a few people as I go through this list, simply because I think there are, well, at the end of the day, some candidates I don't think will run no matter what, and quite a few candidates that I personally think shouldn't run, and yeah, and some candidates I think are probably going to be left off. So we're going to start with, and we're just going to do a very quick overview. I'm not going to really talk about who I think will win all of this or anything like that. Apparently, Dan Bongino is someone who's been mentioned, and has expressed interest. I don't really know too much about him, so I think that candidate. I think he would flop if he even ran. Chris Christie is an interesting choice, but he kind of committed self-immolation when he took down Marco Rubio in the 2016 primary season, though. And he had a really bad end to his tenure as New Jersey governor. So I think he's way too vulnerable of a candidate in the general election. I would advise any Republicans who want to return to a moderate Republican Party to avoid him, just because his governorship was not very successful at the very end of his tenure. Ted Cruz, very interesting choice. I think a bit too conservative for the general electorate, but I even though I think he maybe is a better look than Donald Trump, I think he's just too conservative for the general electorate. He's great for the Republican Party, but he had difficulty in Texas in a Senate election. It'd be very difficult to argue that he would be able to carry the nation even in 2024 with a potentially weak Biden or Harris, who inherited a presidency. One of those two options, right? Matt Gaetz, he's definitely part of the Trump wing of the party, and I just don't see the Trump wing of the party winning nationally. And I actually am finding it hard to believe that they will be able to win a primary within the Republican Party, just because of recent events, really. Nikki Haley, I actually have as the favorite for 2024 within the Republican Party. And a lot of people are calling me crazy for saying that, a lot of liberals are saying she's too conservative. A lot of Republicans are saying that she's just not the type of Republican who could win a general. And I actually disagree on a lot of those takes. One, she isn't all that conservative. Two, she's a lot closer to the Bush wing of the party than to the Trump wing of the party, even though she endorsed Donald Trump and was the U.S. ambassador to the UN for a few years under Donald Trump. And I definitely think she would be a very good when I say I kind of mean to say a very good image choice. And the reason I say that is she is someone who could show that the Republican Party is not the party of conservative men, so to speak. conservative white men. Second reason I think she'd be a lot better is she is a Southerner. And she would definitely help across the Savannah River in Georgia. She is very sharp, very intelligent. She is an excellent debater. She is very good at communication. And generally, from what I've read, her tenure in South Carolina as governor was very good. You know, she did have that whole controversy with the battle flag, but I think in 4 years' time, that's going to be considered ancient history, and people, you know, at least the people who are going to be voting aren't really going to care about that. I'm going to say Candace Owens won't run, and if she does, her campaign is going to fall flat. She kind of goes more towards the conspiracy theorist wing of the party. I really just can't see her winning a primary, even though someone like her, who's, you know, more in line with, I'd say, Republican orthodoxy in terms of positions, and a little bit less on that conspiracy theory wing, would have a very good chance. Basically, she has everything in place except for the wing of the party she's part of. I'm not even going to consider Donald Trump running for president. Not anymore, at least. Some other names would be Greg Abbott, governor of Texas. I don't really see how he appeals to a general electorate. We'll see if he can continue to win in Texas at the gubernatorial level. And he's definitely a lot more moderate than I think a lot of people would expect of a Republican governor from Texas. Kind of in that George W. Bush mold, if that makes any sense. Or even the Jeb Bush mold. Charlie Baker of Massachusetts, interesting candidate. Well loved in Massachusetts, but definitely wouldn't be able to carry the state in a presidential election. Would certainly help out in New Hampshire and Maine, and maybe allow in neighboring Connecticut and Rhode Island, and helping to. And he would definitely be very good at convincing moderate voters and independent voters and swing voters to vote for the Republican Party, because he's kind of what I think a lot of... he's definitely more of the Rockefeller Republican than what we've come to expect from the modern Republican Party. But I could definitely see Charlie Baker running, but I don't know. I don't think he would win. Tom Cotton, I think he's too young, too untested, and I think he's just a touch too conservative. He's not a Bill Clinton replica in terms of being a young presidential candidate from Arkansas. I don't think he's going to be able to match that sort of charisma. Dan Crenshaw is an interesting choice. I'm not sure how that one would go over, if he gained any traction or at all. Josh Hawley, I'm skeptical that he'd be able to basically portray a polished version of Trump. Larry Hogan, again, he's kind of in that Charlie Baker position of, yeah, the Republican Party is still the party of Nelson Rockefeller and Gerald Ford and that sort of thing. No, it really isn't anymore. Will Hurd, former representative from Texas. I actually think Will Hurd could be a very good candidate, but I don't see him running. I think he retired because he wanted to retire and return to private life. I don't think he's planning on a Senate run. I don't think he's planning on a gubernatorial run, and I definitely don't think he's planning on a presidential run. Would he be a good candidate? Yes. Could he win? Yes. Will he run? I'm skeptical of that. Soon to be former Vice President Mike Pence. I think he's a bit too bland. But then again, they like that thing up in the Rust Belt. They like white bread candidates. And if there's any candidate who would be Wonder Bread, it'd be Mike Pence. So maybe Mike Pence would be able to do something, but I think he's too tied to the Trump administration right now. Mike Pompeo, yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I think he's too tied to the administration. Senator Mitt Romney, former governor of Massachusetts. He's currently the junior senator from Utah. Presidential losers don't do well in repeat campaigns. Now, Mitt Romney would have a much easier time going up against Joe Biden or Kamala Harris than he had in 2012. But no, I think his time as a presidential hopeful is kind of over. Former Speaker of the House Paul Ryan, interesting choice, but he definitely still holds political clout in Wisconsin, and he is certainly a candidate who will appeal to the fiscal focus of the party, and definitely someone who will appeal to those who are more intent on following a fiscally responsible government, because that's all he did was focus on passing balanced budgets, or at least attempting to. But I don't. I'm actually, if you were to follow the supposed next man up theory that the Republicans have had for a while, he's not the worst choice I've heard. Because you could argue that he was the next person in line, the next in line after Mitt Romney, considering Romney tapped him to be the his vice presidential pick. Marco Rubio, I think Rubio is kind of done after the let's dispel with this notion that Barack Obama does not know what he's doing thing. I think he made a terrible mistake, and while Chris Christie was taking himself out, he made sure that fire engulfed Marco Rubio. Ben Sass from Nebraska is extremely intelligent. He's very likable. He's able to say, I was part of the wing of the party that was not comfortable with Donald Trump. I agreed with him on the issues, and that's about it. I agreed with him on certain issues, and that's about it. And, I think he would be able to portray himself as someone who is able to break with the party in order to demonstrate his independence, but also his ability to work across the aisle. I definitely think he'd be a good choice if more people knew about him. And just listen to the way he discusses questions for the judicial branch as his role on the Senate Judiciary Committee. Specifically, his discussion during the Kavanaugh hearing, and also to an extent the Amy Coney Barrett hearings, regarding how Congress is effectively shirked its duties to an alphabet soup of bureaucracy. And, to paraphrase him, there's no verse in Schoolhouse Rock that says give all sorts of unchecked power to unelected bureaucrats in the alphabet soup of bureaucracy. He's brilliant, and I definitely would say he is someone who moderates could get behind. Go down to Rick Scott, who's another. I think Rick Scott better serves the Republican Party as senator from Florida, and in the Senate campaign arm of the Republican campaign operation. Donald Trump Jr. No, just no. And Eric Trump, same thing, just no. There are a few people who've declined to be candidates. Tucker Carlson was rumored. Actually, I genuinely believe that Tucker Carlson is true. Speaking honestly, when he says he's not going to run for president, I don't think he should. And I don't really see why people want to see Tucker as president. I really don't. Good on television. I don't think he'd be a good president. Ron DeSantis, current governor of Florida. This is a more interesting pick than a more interesting candidate than I think people will give him credit for. And I would say I could see him doing very well, but also he has a very low floor in the campaign, especially with both senators from Florida being rumored as candidates. The Florida wing of the party is going to be very, very split, and you don't want to split the Florida man vote. Kristi Noem of South Dakota. Personally, I don't think this is a bad choice, but, she said she's not going to run, but I don't know. I genuinely think she'd be a very good candidate, I think, if she decided to run. But I think she's more interested in being governor. Dan Patrick, Lieutenant Governor of Texas, no national recognition at all. Only political people know anything he's done. Tim Scott, U.S. Senator, he's also from South Carolina. I think he would do very well if he decided to run. Currently, it seems he's more interested in continuing his tenure in the Senate. But I also think that in addition to being a very good, doing very well in a primary, if he won, I don't really see him losing the general election unless, whoever the Democratic nominee is able to fart unicorns and shit rainbows. I genuinely think Tim Scott would be a very, very good candidate, because it's going to be hard to argue that the Republican message is bad when his message is the principles that I was raised on that I carry into government are what brought, the principles that Tim Scott was raised on and brought into government and brought into politics and to shape his political identity are the same principles that brought his family from the cotton fields to the Senate. It is a very difficult campaign message to argue against. And it takes away a massive argument against the Republican Party that is used to scare independents and swing voters to not voting Republican. And of course, that argument being that the Republican Party is racist. Ivanka Trump, I'm going to say no, but she, of all the Trump children, would have the best chance. Scott Walker, former governor of Wisconsin. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. And because I'm a libertarian and I'm interested in this, apparently Tulsi Gabbard is listed as a potential candidate. I'm not entirely sure why the Libertarian Party would pick someone who supports expanding the welfare state. But there are things to like about Tulsi Gabbard if you are a libertarian or even a conservative. Certainly, if you, she's not for this endless regime change war that we've been stuck in since, well, the Bush administration. You could argue since the first Bush administration. She's not in favor of super expansive gun control, which is extremely weird for a Democrat. She is smart. She is intelligent. She understands that, people have a right to speak. People have a right to, express themselves and a right to live their lives as they damn well please. I definitely think there are things that people who are, on the economic right can disagree with her on, but in terms of other than economic issues, it's hard to find too many reasons to dislike her. So, yeah. And of course, the Trump administration did actually interview her for a cabinet position. So, yeah, there's that. And honestly, that's about it. So, gonna go ahead and wrap it up here and say I hope all y'all have a very, very nice time and a very good evening. A like, a comment, and a subscription is greatly appreciated, and I hope to see all y'all soon. Bye-bye.